A few years back during my college days, I attended a New Year's Eve party off campus. I had returned to my mother's place for the winter break, which was about an hour away from my campus. Some friends had returned before classes resumed, and one of my close friends was hosting a New Year's Eve gathering at their campus residence, so I decided to join him. I stopped by my own apartment first, and then arrived at my friend's place around 5 p.m. I was among the early arrivals, and we hung out until more people started trickling in. It was enjoyable initially, with many of my college pals in attendance, but as often happens with college parties, things started spiraling a bit out of control. Around 10 p.m. or so, the crowd grew significantly, including a lot of unfamiliar faces. Amidst the growing chaos, a guy approached me. He seemed to be in his late 20s, slightly inebriated, and struck up a conversation. However, it didn't take long for his inquiries to turn uncomfortable when he began suggesting leaving together. I declined firmly, but he persisted, following me wherever I went in the crowded house. As it neared midnight, feeling increasingly uneasy, I decided to leave. I struggled to locate him in the throng to point him out to my friends before departing, but I eventually bid my friend goodbye and stepped out. Initially, I thought he had given up when I reached the outside. I started walking back to my apartment, just a few blocks away, but as I traversed the street, I heard someone exiting the house. I turned and saw him. Asking where I was headed, I informed him I was going home, and he started walking towards me, concerned that he might follow me all the way. I tried to ignore him and quicken my pace. When I reached the turn towards my place, he was still behind me, so I attempted to lose him by cutting through a stranger's yard and then navigating through different blocks. Thankfully, it worked, and by the time I got off that street, he was nowhere in sight. I made it back to my apartment and double-checked outside to ensure he hadn't somehow followed me. Everything seemed fine, so I went to bed shortly after the next day. Since college classes were starting in 2 weeks, I returned to my parents' house. Arriving there in the early afternoon, I noticed someone had added me on Snapchat. The person's name was Mike initially. I didn't automatically connect it to the guy from the night before. My college was vast, and I interacted with many people whose Snapchats I didn't have. Plus, I didn't recall this guy mentioning his name the previous night. However, after Mike added me and said hello, claiming we'd met the night before, I blocked him immediately. I wanted no further interaction after his attempt to follow me home. But the story didn't end there. That night at my parents' house, while in my bedroom, I spotted a car parked on the street outside. It was odd because our neighborhood was quiet, and every house had ample driveway space. The car, a standard sedan, was parked about 20 feet from our driveway. I couldn't discern if anyone was inside as it was too far away. Curiosity piqued, I walked over to the window for a better look. Right as I reached the window, the driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. At first, I didn't recognize him, but as he walked into our driveway and got closer, I realized it was the same guy from the party. This completely baffled me. I wasn't anywhere near campus. I was an hour away at my parents' house. Why was he here? I watched as he walked towards the back of our house, out of my line of sight. Concerned, I rushed to find my parents. and alerted them about the situation, we immediately contacted the police. We cautiously approached a window at the back of the house to try and spot the guy, but it was dark and there were plenty of hiding spots. We didn't see him, but we were certain he was somewhere back there. Moments later, the police arrived. We informed them that the guy was likely hiding in the backyard. They conducted a search, and eventually, they found him. He attempted to flee, but was apprehended before leaving our property. It turned out that he wasn't even a student at my college. He tracked my location through the brief time he had me on Snapchat. Since my location sharing was enabled, this is an experience that still feels surreal to this day. I'm grateful that I noticed the car and saw him entering our property. What his intentions were, I'll never know. However, I'm thankful we alerted the authorities and resolved the situation. Every great beginning starts with small steps. By joining me on this journey, we can grow together. Don't forget, every subscriber means a lot to me.